The surroundings were enveloped by evil spirits, everything was destroyed, along with terrifying sounds. A voice rang out, "So this is how it all ends." Evan stood helplessly looking at the scene before his eyes, holding his head and blaming himself for being so weak, apologizing to everyone. Christian should have been the hero, not me. Christian sat on a rock right behind him, looking at him with heartbroken eyes. A girl approached from behind to comfort him. "Please don't say that, hero Evan." She lowered her eyes sadly. "We did our best." Of course, if Sir Christian, with his natural talent, had started learning swordsmanship a little earlier, he could have surpassed 9 stars and become a 10-star hero. If that had happened, couldn't the two of you have prevented the apocalypse? Hearing this, Christian remained motionless on the rock. Christian reminisced about his life, a great outsider, thanks to his prodigious talent, allowing him to learn everything in an instant. He left behind a glorious legacy and earned this title. The journey of the great outsider began one day when I was 20, when I escaped my cursed family and dreamed of success, struggling in the dark alleys, doing hard labor carrying large, heavy goods. Christian turned his head in one direction. The magic empire was invaded by the demon lord, initiating the age of destruction. The attack of the demon lords riding giant beasts. People gathered before the bulletin board, whispering and gossiping. Christian saw a notice posted on the bulletin board. He was astonished by the information, recruiting companions for the hero. He realized it was his chance. He happily thought, "This is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity." The joy made the heavy burden on his back feel as light as a feather. Christian was determined to reach the peak and enjoy wealth and glory after the war ended. But in the end, we failed. The forces of light were slaughtered by the demon lord. Returning to the present, the girl's voice was steady. "If possible, I wish I could turn back time so that Sir Christian could be chosen as the hero." Hearing her, Christian sat there in a daze. He thought to himself, "A hero, even if I could turn back time, I wouldn't want to do it again. A life of suffering is enough, dreaming is pointless now." As the world neared its end and the evil aura grew stronger, the three looked up. The image was clear in Christian's eyes. He knew it was real, a look of acceptance of reality. He silently wished that in his next life, whether it existed or not, he would be born into a wealthy family. That was my final thought. Sunlight shone through the window, the wind stirred the curtains. The hand of a young man. Christian silently looked at his hand. "I've regressed," he thought. "This time, I was born into the body of a young master of the magic empire. This is the Black Magic Clan, with its imposing dark castle against the backdrop of a blue sky, white clouds, and birds soaring across the heavens. True to its ominous name, it's one of the 12 clans supporting the magic empire. From what I can determine, I've regressed 15 years. In other words, I've returned 5 years before the age of destruction began." The sound of pruning shears. Magical beasts are carefully trimming and shaping the garden plants. Standing high up inside the castle window, Christian, arms crossed, looked down, marveling. "I thought I'd seen everything in my past life, but I never expected to see magical beasts tending a garden." He narrowed his eyes, looking at his reflection with disdain. "Not to mention I know who this scoundrel is. That's Christian van Baron Karza posing with one hand on his hip and one leg slightly bent, his shiny, luxurious clothes contrasting with his sad, unhappy face." Before his regression, Christian had asked a 9-tailed fox at the dinner table, about the noble van in his name. "Is he a demon from a branch family?" The fox complimented him and explained, "Correct, Christian is as quick-witted as ever. The Count Khazar family is a branch of the Count Baron, also known as the Black Magic Clan." Christian wondered, "So, is it a weaker family?" The fox immediately denied it. "No, even as a branch family, they hold a firm position within the Black Magic Clan, not to mention their immense wealth. I doubt you'll find any villain in the Magic Empire who doesn't know them. I hear they have 2 potential heirs, but the eldest son, Christian, is a real scoundrel among scoundrels. He only knew how to eat, drink, and party. He constantly caused trouble everywhere. Count Khazar finally gave up on him." The fox suddenly said, "Oh, but that's all in the past now." This made Christian curious. "What, has he reformed?" The fox revealed shocking news. he was murdered by his family. Seeing himself in Christian's form, he involuntarily broke out in a cold sweat and his mouth twisted to one side. He slammed his hand against the mirror, frustrated. Damn it, I just wanted to be the son of a normal wealthy family. But I've regressed here, why him, why this cursed, predetermined scoundrel. His spirit was crushed, he kept muttering, what am I going to do now? Think, Christian, think. He recalled waking up in a new body 3 days ago. I awakened in this body with a surprisingly coincidental name. And in 2 years, Christian will die. He propped himself up against the mirror, head down, analyzing the situation. His expulsion from the Count Khazar family, a family that highly values honor, certainly means he was truly useless. If I just keep quiet and don't cause any trouble, maybe I can avoid death. He considered another approach. Since I've awakened in the body of a rich kid, I just need to take care of myself and enjoy the wealth and glory. He slapped his forehead to clear his head. Christian clutched his head, rejecting his previous thought, no way that will happen. Because he knew about Ragnarok, the end of the world. The reason the Demon Lord initiated the war was to sacrifice humanity to complete Ragnarok. By the time we realized this, it was too late, and both the Holy Realm and the Magic Empire were facing ultimate destruction. Christian found his path, so, if I want to survive, I have to prevent the end of the world. The Demon King's massacre is one thing since he was the one who initiated the war, but the bigger problem is the countless evil people in the Magic Empire who are loyal to them. To stop this I must become stronger than the Demon King of Carnage. There's only one way to do that. I must become the Demon Emperor and sit at the apex of the Magic Empire. I have 5 years before the era of destruction begins. It's worth a shot. And if I succeed, not only this mansion, but the entire Magic Empire will be mine. Count Khazar angrily slammed his hand on the table and shouted loudly, Christian, I certainly told you to stay in the room, and right now Christian is kneeling in front of you. His face darkened, his eyes filled with anger. You dare show your face here after what happened just a short while ago? Don't you have any shame? He glared threateningly, if you act wrongly again, I will personally behead you. Christian remained silent, feeling the Count's overwhelming aura. He silently marveled, Count Khazar, he truly possesses a terrifyingly oppressive presence. Count Khazar was slightly startled by Christian's words. I came here to apologize for all the mistakes I've made so far, Father. While speaking to his father, he thought to himself, if I want to carry out my plan, I must erase the useless image Christian has created. Count Khazar thought he had heard wrong and asked him what Christian said sincerely, I'm really sorry for everything I've done, it won't happen again. However, the Count didn't believe him. You expect me to believe you just days after what happened? Are you mocking me? Christian bowed his head, wondering, what was the most recent trouble he caused before my regression? I've heard so many stories, I can't pinpoint one. He remained kneeling, bowing his head and sincerely apologizing to Count Khazar. The reason you lost faith in me is because of me, but 3 days ago, didn't I say I lost part of my memory? To regain those memories, I reflected on my past actions and realized how many mistakes I've made. My heart beats with this truth. Count Khazar coldly said, I've heard your apologies countless times. He immediately replied that yes, mere verbal excuses have no meaning at all, so from now on I will prove Melon to you with actions. He suggested to Count Khazar, please send me to the punishment cave, I will stay there for a month and show you a different person. Christian contemplates that the punishment cave, a prison for high-level demons, is a place where not only is there no light, but all 5 of your senses are blocked. Just a few days can make one's mind exhausted, but it's perfect for me right now. I need a place to hide from other people's eyes. Regarding Christian's decision, Count Khazar is full of doubts. You intend to stay in the punishment cave for a month, why don't I think you can stay there for half a day? But Christian was resolute. I fully understand the hardship there, however, I think this is the best way for you to trust me. Count Khazar fell silent, momentarily speechless. Then he said, do you know how many times we've had this conversation? Each time, you only disappoint me more. Before, Christian was always drunk. Christian only remained silent. Finally, the 3 lords of Khazar agreed to compromise. But okay, I will listen to you and give you one chance. He warned sternly, however, if nothing changes after a month, I will expel you from the family. Christian clenched his fists on his thighs, thinking that meant his execution. There was a long line of people who wanted Christian's life when he lost his protection by being kicked out of the clan. Christian, without hesitation, firmly stated, I understand. He added, but if I can prove that I've changed, please grant me one request. Count Khazar found it hard to contain his impatience with Christian. His expression turned impatient. Your tone is arrogant, as if you're certain you'll come out of there unscathed. Considering it improbable, he agreed, fine, if you can prove to me that you've changed, I will grant you any request. As he turned to leave, Count Khazar casually added, but I don't believe that will happen. Christian calmly returned to his room, examining his belongings and waiting for the outcome. Cox, the Count Khazar's half-vampire butler, faced Christian. He nervously said, young master, the punishment cave is ready. Christian put the stone back in his pocket and replied, I understand. In the hallway of the mansion, gentle sunlight from the large windows illuminates the whole place. Seeing Christian and carrying things past the workers without any hesitation started whispering, what did she hear? It's not helpful. He went into the punishment cave himself. What trick is he planning? Those sounds were all clearly heard by Christian. Remember the recent incident when he insulted the lady of the magic potion family. You mean the accident that the Count himself had to personally apologize for? The gossip grew louder. How shameful to have to apologize to our rival family. Christian really didn't want to hear this anymore. Before he left here, they kept talking about when that good-for-nothing guy would grow up. I bet you never thought how long he would last in that cave. Some people pretend to think and then answer, I bet it will take 2 days at most. Christian just slightly smirked at them. But someone had been observing him this whole time. Arriving in front of a mysterious large gate, Cox introduced, we've arrived, young Master Christian. Christian raised his head and looked up. He had difficulty assessing whether using Death Knights to guard was truly in line with the name of the Magic Empire. Christian brushed off the dust and began to enter, as long as it keeps everyone away from the main cave. At that moment, a loud voice called from behind him, brother. Hearing that sound, Christian also turned his head and saw a young boy. Observing the child's facial features, Christian had the answer, a familiar face, Christian's younger brother, a model student. Before Thurn van Baron Khazar could even say hello, a sword rushed forward. Thurn's sharp sword pointed straight at Christ's neck. Faced with this kind of thing, Christian does not panic. That boy, when he pointed his sword at someone else's neck, was very decisive. Christian looked calm, but in reality, he was terrified. He tried to maintain his composure and asked, what's wrong with you? It doesn't seem like you're here to say goodbye. Thurn arrogantly spoke, I'm sure you know you're the disgrace of this family. The boy's eyes clearly showed hatred. He said, I don't know what you're planning, but if you continue to ruin the family's honor, I will kill you myself. The boy's authoritative voice continued, do you understand? This is my final warning. Christian was somewhat surprised and thought to himself, I understand, perhaps he's the one who killed Christian. Memories flooded back. I had met Thurn before. During the Age of Destruction, he was a notorious demon known for his curse magic. Christian clicked his tongue, so he's quite cute as a child. He seems to have trained diligently. But don't think Christian is easily defeated by a kid. He raised his hand, deflecting the sword, and sternly said, get out of here. In his heart, he thought, he's just a brat compared to me, someone who has seen the worst moments of the Age of Destruction. Seeing Christian resist, Thurn couldn't believe it and asked, what did you just say? Christian repeated, I understand, so leave. Thurn, as if struck by a bolt of lightning, tried to say, I warned you. Yet, Christian resolutely entered the cave. Thurn was left alone, standing dumbfounded before the large gate. Thurn resentfully exclaimed, what's with that attitude? Christian ignored the boy and began his journey. Inside, it was dark, mysterious, and suffocating. His eyes were constantly alert, unable to see or hear anything. Only the faintest sensations remained on his fingertips. Christian looked at his palm, guessing, I bet they did this on purpose, so prisoners can feel the items they bring in, otherwise, they'll starve. A normal person would be mentally exhausted in here. However, it's different for me, I've experienced worse things as a treasure hunter. And blocking my 5 senses is what I want, because it helps me feel deeper within myself. Without it, I can't hold on to this broken body. Of course, it requires a lot of time and luck. But with the medical skills I acquired from my master, as a saint of medicine. The bone-setting skills I learned from the contortionist branch of the circus. And finally, magic stones of all kinds of materials are completely possible to create. Christian held a small stone in his hand and fell into thought. Honestly, I thought I'd never be able to touch magic stones because they're so expensive, but I guess this is the best benefit of wealthy families, they'll fulfill all my requests, even though I'm a good-for-nothing. In my past life, Evan and I struggled to get them. He acted immediately. I'll start by using the white magic stone, which will cleanse all the toxins. It's very boring. But it's a crucial step. It requires me to cleanse the accumulated toxins in my body using white mana. The slightest mistake will cause excruciating physical pain throughout my body. Christian closed his eyes, focusing intensely, feeling the cleansing in his body. Then he opened his eyes wide, his face relaxed. He could rest assured, but this was just child's play for him. After Cox returned, Count Khazar asked how Christian was doing. Cox honestly recounted that the boy had obediently entered the punishment cave. Cox pondered a bit. I'm worried that it will destroy him to the point he can't even cry for help. Even Count Khazar fell into contemplation. Was sending him there wrong? He wondered about the child with such a promising future. Why he had collapsed so suddenly. His talent made him too arrogant. Whatever the reason, it's better for him to be completely destroyed or die than to live miserably. Count Khazar unconsciously recalled Christian's firm words, I'll show you, father, with my actions. In a moment of mental shift, he thought, no, we shouldn't have hope for him, he's deceived us too much. Yet, he still asked, did you notice anything strange when he went in? Cox was clearly flustered. Count Khazar was about to lose his temper. Don't hide anything, report every detail. Cox honestly reported, actually, the young master brought magic stones into the cave, along with a dream stone that causes hallucinations. We don't know the side effects, so we had to open the cave immediately. Upon hearing this, Count Khazar's hands unconsciously clenched. But he coldly decided, if so, then let him die. Time flew by. In the blink of an eye, a month later, as promised, Count Khazar stood before the cave entrance, waiting for his son. In his heart, he had many worries. He assumed his son was exhausted by now. Yet, the large door slowly opened. Before Count Khazar's astonished eyes, a radiant light seemed to emanate from inside. Christian appeared, his appearance refined and full of hope. He looked even brighter than before. Upon seeing his father, he cheerfully said, Father, you're here, I've been waiting for you. Seeing that people didn't respond, Christian asked, surprised. He stopped in front of Count Khazar. His mature demeanor reiterated his initial affirmation, I promised I would return a changed man. A flicker of doubt seemed to cross Count Khazar's eyes. He mused, those eyes haven't looked at me like that since he was a child. Christian's eyes are different now, his expression more mature and composed. Count Khazar chuckled, so you endured it, haha, that's quite a compliment, Christian. Count Khazar remained firm, don't get ahead of yourself over a trifle, I'm still not convinced. What else can Christian do but sigh? It means you have to try harder. He secretly grumbled, what a difficult old man. He fell into thought, he probably thinks I barely endured the trial cave, but that's not true. I was too busy training to be bored. First, I perfected my body to master swordsmanship. Thanks to the white augmentation stone, every cell in my body is brimming with vitality after each training session. Moreover, the dream stone was a game changer. When Cox learned Christian intended to bring it, he trembled. You're really taking that into the trial cave, young master? The butler had tried to stop him from bringing the illusionary augmentation stone, but he was glad he'd been stubborn. The illusion significantly shortened my transformation time. Besides, I created 2 cores, he said. Don't boast, you're only the strongest in theory. During his seclusion, Christian cultivated a 1-star light magic. He couldn't help but praise himself. I'm still a true genius. Of course, I used the dark core to hide my light core. If my friends found out, they'd be amazed. It would have been good if things ended there, but... That day, while engrossed in training, an object suddenly flew towards him. It was clearly a dream stone. Christian smirked. You're giving me a dream stone, what a mess. He realized someone wanted to use it to make him lose control and fall. Fine, I'll use you as a sacrifice for my leap forward. After everything, Christian felt qualified to say this to Count Khazar. I kept my promise, please allow me to make a request. Count Khazar said without hesitation, speak. Christian pleaded, please let me use the training grounds of the Black Knights. At that, Count Khazar's face darkened. No way, a nobody like you has no place there. They are one of the 3 knight orders supporting the dark magic family. Only the most elite knights can showcase their skills there. Christian persisted, I only asked to borrow the training grounds. Guidance from the Black Sword Knights would greatly benefit me. He affirmed, I don't intend to join their order. Count Khazar fell silent for a few seconds, considering his words. Finally, he relented, fine, but remember my warning, don't disgrace yourself before the knights. Christian replied firmly, understood. Before Count Khazar left, Christian added, I have one more request. Time passed slowly, a gentle breeze carried a few leaves. As the sun rose on the training grounds, those present were wary of the newcomer. Christian changed into different clothes and strode out confidently. They whispered, pointing at Christian, isn't that the foolish young master? Why is he like this? Christian drew his sword. He guessed their sudden respect for a low-ranking slave was due to their location, a magic empire where strength outweighed status. Actually, there was another reason. He subconsciously recalled Count Khazar's words when he made his additional request, the library. If you have a letter of introduction from Vice Commissioner Melin, I'll give you the key. He pondered. Access to the library was his second request. It housed all the dark magic books of the Kazan Marquis family. To learn dark magic, he needed access. He recalled their conversation at the entrance to the trial cave. Regarding Count Khazar's condition, Christian wondered, why did father add the condition that I remain a member of the family? Count Khazar reminded him, you've forgotten you used to sell high-level magic books on the black market for cheap. Hearing this less than clean past, Christian didn't want to hear it. He inwardly exclaimed, what kind of life did this body live? He was truly a useless, lowly person. Returning to the present, Christian gripped his sword, advancing with fierce determination. His top priority was still gaining the vice commander's recognition. Christian suddenly stopped, looking at something. Thurn appeared in the crowd. He raised his voice, this isn't a place for someone like you. Christian inwardly cursed Thurn. He inwardly lamented, it's him again, how troublesome. But Christian smiled faintly. He slung his sword over his shoulder, a knowing smile on his face. Actually, this is a good opportunity. Thurn approached, go back, I assume you don't want to throw away the life you barely kept in the trial cave. He calmly replied, Thurn, can you take responsibility for those words? Father is the one who allowed me here. Thurn was slightly worried, father. Footsteps approached, I respect the Count's decision, but... Melin, hands on hips, scowled, you're not very trustworthy, are you, Christian? He turned to face Vice Commander Melin. A dark aura emanated. He thought, that's definitely about 4-star dark energy. They want to intimidate me from the start, but I'm used to it. He bowed, greetings, Vice Commander. Melin frowned, he can withstand my dark energy. If even the Vice Commander has to intervene, there's no other way. In the training ground, a voice rings out, I will prove Melin that I am worthy of being in this training ground. You say you prove Melin. He raised his hand towards the coal. What if I fought one of the demons here and won? Melin's voice sounded, you're joking, sir. He looked up and replied with a smile, I'm not joking. His hands formed crossed fists. He said, instead, I want you to restrain the spread of dark energy. As you know, due to my depraved lifestyle, my dark energy reserves are quite low, I'd prefer a free-for-all hand-to-hand fight, if possible. Melon crossed her arms, thinking, even if it's a fair fight, we can't let the heir get injured, this is a bit troublesome, she said. You think you'll win in a hand-to-hand fight, young master? He smiled and replied, we'll find out soon. Now, who should we choose as an opponent? His hand was raised to point in one direction. He pointed at Thurn in the back. Thurn is fine. Thurn's eyes lit up, his face not angry. How dare you? Melon casually propped one hand on her hip and said, I think it would be better if you chose a more suitable opponent. You know young Master Thurn's level is 2 stars, right? Thurn gritted his teeth, angrily watching the man who was smirking. Thurn moved, his sword appearing, a 2-star swordsman, a level no ordinary 13-year-old could achieve. He crossed his arms, watching Thurn ascend the steps, smiling contentedly. If someone doesn't have innate talent, it doesn't matter if they're 13 or 23, they can't reach the strength of a swordsman, but I'm not an ordinary person. He shook his head. No, if I'm going to prove myself to Melon, I have to choose someone stronger than me. I think fighting Thurn would be best. His eyes lit up, he laughed. So, what do you say? You're not afraid of your own brother, are you? Thurn frowned, looking displeased. I accept the challenge. Currently, he and Thurn stood opposite each other in a circle surrounded by people. Their voices rang out, young Master Thurn, use this opportunity to crush that scoundrel. If you let him go unharmed, we'll have special training today. He began cracking his knuckles, looked up and asked the second in command, how will we decide the winner, or do we fight until one surrenders? Melon's face was unhappy. She thought to herself, how dare he be so arrogant, he doesn't even know his place. She said to him, that's too boring, fight until the other person is incapacitated. Now that I think about it, it would be better if young Master Thurn crippled him by breaking his legs. He put his hand to his mouth, pointing at Thurn. Did you hear the rules? What will you do? They said you're going to fight seriously this time. Thurn was angered by his words. He shouted, you arrogant fool, I'll make sure you can't open that mouth again. Suddenly, he lunged forward and struck him in the face. Thurn was surprised, unable to react. He laughed. What, the fight has already begun. He wiped the blood from his face and glared angrily at him. He lunged forward, punching him. Shut up, honestly, this is unfair. As a 1-star demon, I can't win against someone with dark energy. But in this basic hand-to-hand combat, he dodged the punch and swung his leg. A kick to Thurn's stomach caused him excruciating pain. I've fought on countless battlefields, gaining much experience in my past life. Furthermore, considering only the light energy I gained in the punishment cave, I've reached 3-star strength. The people outside were both surprised and horrified. What did we just witness? Thurn clutched his stomach, blood flowing. He covered his mouth, looking at Thurn. Don't tell me you're crying. Want me to blow on it to make it feel better? Thurn clutched his stomach in anger. He lowered his head, breathing heavily. What trick did you use? He chuckled inwardly. Seeing him in this state was truly refreshing, and leisurely replied, there's no such thing as a trick. It's just that I'm a bit too weak. He raised his face when he heard my words. Thurn's face darkened. Fine. He smugly raised his hand to his ear. What did you say? Too quiet, I didn't hear you. Thurn's hand curved around, emitting black gas. You swing your fist and rush towards me, I'll kill you. He dodged to the side, laughing. You're pretty fast, he thought to himself. Yes, this is the fighting spirit I was looking for. Thurn angrily punched him repeatedly but did not hit him. But he touched Thurn's hand. Thurn looked at his hand. My dark magic, it's fading, my dark energy. He punched him directly in the face. Fighting is about instinct and experience. He fell backwards, vomiting blood. And then fell to the ground. Everyone gasped. Their voices rang out. Young Master Thurn lowered his guard. Perhaps he suppressed his dark energy for fear of injuring that scoundrel. Otherwise, how could he lose? He approached Thurn. Melon watched worriedly from outside. Thurn lay on the ground, seemingly lifeless. He turned to Melon and asked, what do you think? Is this enough proof for Melon? Melon crossed her arms and looked at him. Yes, he replied, thank you. Inside, his face darkened. He thought to himself, good, it's a success. On the outside, I'll be cheerful, the thoughts of someone. Now I will master everything related to magic and learn all swordsmanship techniques here. The story begins with the appearance of a large door. Christian sat in his room controlling black magic. He had already reached 1-star black magic because he was still not completely proficient in controlling dark energy, and with the huge amount of residue left by Christian, everything took longer than he expected. He sat on the chair and rang the bell, thinking to himself that in order to use the power of light at the same time, he must level up as much as possible. A pair of legs appeared. Next, this person's face appeared. You summoned me, my lord, Master Marie, Christian's maid. He turned his face, annoyed, thinking that he couldn't believe they were using a high-level evil spirit, a banshee, as a maid, but he had to admit that Christian constantly caused trouble that they couldn't manage, so it became like this. Marie looked at him expressionlessly, questioning him. He angrily said, I have to replace her later, then told Marie, get me some cock's juice, I'll drink it and then go train. Marie, flustered, asked, should I prepare human blood with it? He replied, make it strawberry ice. Her face came closer to him. Human blood is delicious, my lord. His face sweated as he said, I told you to use strawberries. She repeated the words human blood. He angrily shouted, strawberry. Someone outside called him young master. He saw Cox running up from behind, worriedly asking, it's still early, but you're already going to train. I'm worried you'll overwork yourself. He frowned unhappily, listening to him. Of course, I'm happy and proud to see you so diligent. I will always believe in you, even if the whole world is against you. Look at this guy. He angrily glared at him, full of killing intent. I never told you to believe in me. Who are you to have the right to believe or not believe me? Cox was startled. He bowed and apologized. I'm sorry, I overstepped my bounds. Have a pleasant training session, young master. Then he turned and left. He looked at him, thinking, that guy is suspicious. He happily took his sword and bag to the training ground. He took the bag off his shoulder and smiled, looking at them. These guys, their eyes are more subdued than before. Now that they're off guard, should I gradually subdue them? He threw the bag to the ground. A bird-headed, human-faced man looked at him, turned, and walked towards him with a sword. He moved to the tent. He lifted the curtain and looked inside. Deputy Commander. He stood before Melon and said, the young master is at the training ground again today. Melon sat in his chair silently, saying nothing. What is he planning? Melon's face was serious, as if he were thinking about something. Melon recalled yesterday's fight and the duel. What was it? The young master's movements were very impressive and he didn't deserve a single hit. Unexpectedly, the young master dispelled Mr. Thurn's dark energy at the decisive moment. Christian, he completely saw through the situation of the battle. With just one touch, he dispelled Thurn's dark energy. If so, his talent might have surpassed Lord Eskid de Baron, the direct descendant of the main family. No, he's just a wretch. He's lost all his dark energy due to his decadent lifestyle. The images of him and his father appeared. Now, he can't close that gap anymore. Melon looked outside. Melon went outside and asked, what's all the commotion? A soldier looked at Melon. Deputy Commander. It seems the young master had a minor conflict with a servant. He's standing there, holding his sword, looking at the person lying on the ground. Someone suddenly asked, what's going on? The other said, Cannon is a 1-star dark mage. No way, that wretch reached 1 star already. Melon's eyes widened. He turned, shouldered his sword, and casually asked, I want to witness firsthand the legendary power of the Black Knight, but it seems to be all talk. Is anyone here willing to step up? Of course, you're not a cowardly bunch of knights, are you? Everyone angrily gritted their teeth at his words. A person stepped forward. A man said, I will. He beckoned with a smile, thinking they were falling into his trap, and said, come on. The man leaped, swinging his sword at him. I don't expect them to obediently teach the knight's secrets to a useless person like me. He continuously attacked the man. if that's the case, I'll have to take it by force, then. The man skillfully avoided the sword and moved gracefully. So that's it, that's precisely the swordsmanship I've only heard rumors about. If I do it roughly like this, it'll be effective. He gripped his sword tightly. Then he hit the man's face. Melon looked at him in surprise. He smiled contentedly. After the fight, he sat on the man. Everyone looked at each other and talked, while Melon was stunned. No way, that wretch is actually that strong. Wasn't his dark core destroyed? How did he reach 1 star? So I was wrong back then. He turned to them and said, disappointing, it seems I've placed too much faith in these knights. If your skills are this pathetic, the deputy commander should be held accountable. 2 people behind Melon panicked. Can we stop him, that madman? Melon said, young master, I understand you're happy with your victory, but haven't you gone too far? He stood up and looked and said, so the deputy commander can show us. Do you have the skills of the Black Sword Knight? Melon turned black and took the sword from the person next to him. The attack was launched and grazed his shoulder. A large crack appeared next to him. Melon emanated dark energy, furious, pointing her sword at him. She snarled, filthy wretch like you, I only need a second. Christian gestured towards Melon, asking, are you planning to fight someone like me with strength? We're only using level 1 dark energy, and the magic level in this battle, what about that? Melon held her sword, sneering, 1 star. Melon pointed her sword at him, I'll break both your legs with half the effort. He lowered his head and asked, so I'll bet my leg. What about you, Deputy Commander? You don't have to rush towards me because you won't be able to get out of here today. He held his sword in front of him to block her attack. He trembled a little and blocked her attack. Melon attacked repeatedly, but he managed to block each strike. The onlookers were both surprised and murmuring, even fighting the second-in-command directly, he's held his own for a while now, isn't the second-in-command's usual weapon a great sword? Melon was furious, grinding her teeth. She thought to herself, for some reason, my attacks aren't landing, he's supposed to be weak, so how is he matching me? This is different. She thought about yesterday's match between him and Thurn. He defeated Thurn and now he was also able to block her attack when he fought Thurn, and also the match before that. This seemed to happen too, right? He was slightly sweating. Seems things aren't going according to your plan, are they? She turned black and angry. Her sword began to radiate dark energy. The sword was absorbing dark energy. Melon swung his sword. A straight attack is landed. He dodged Melon's attack now. Then suddenly he jumped up. Used his head to hit Melon in the face. The two looked up and Melon covered her mouth. Blood was flowing from her hands. He was sweating, looking ahead. Success. A strangely shaped sword with chains bound to it appeared. It was introduced as Melon's. She's a swordswoman. As long as her dark magic is restrained, she can't unleash her full power. The moment she's off guard, she won't be able to parry a swift, precise attack. If Melon focused on swift, agile swordsmanship, she might have succeeded. She looked at her bloody hand. Suddenly Melon laughed loudly. He craned his neck to hear her say, a headbutt, I didn't expect it. It seems like I'm looking down on you a little too much, young master. I'll focus more now. She turned her head to look, but isn't this match over? I scratched you with my finger while headbutting you. If I poisoned my finger, you know what would happen, right? A purple liquid flowed from his hand. Melon slung her sword over her shoulder, smiling, I accept this defeat. Tell me, what do you want? In return, may I fight you another time? He stammered, a rematch. Then you have to accept another request from me, she replied, anything. You get closer to Melon if that's the case. Looked at her and whispered, will you kneel before me? Melon calmly told him, do you know that that is a condition that cannot be met? My loyalty is to the great black magic family of the Baron family, and people outside cannot hear their conversation. Can you hear what they say? He replied, of course I know you will be loyal, but wouldn't everything be reasonable if I became the young master of this family? Melon worriedly calling out, young master. 5 figures with dangerous eyes appeared. That's impossible. the 5 recognized young masters are all direct descendants of the great family. He smiled calmly. So what, there's no law saying someone from another branch of the family can't be the young master. Whatever the conditions, I accept your request. He slung his sword over his shoulder, looking at her. 1 win for me, starting now, but next time, let's restrain ourselves. Melon confidently replied, if that's the case, you won't be able to win next time, young master. He responded, who knows? He frowned, there are some things you just can't predict in this world. Melon didn't respond, silently looking at him. He bowed, placing his hand on his chest. Then, I'll look forward to our next match. I'll show you where your loyalty should lie. Scene change. He held up a piece of paper, a letter of recommendation from second-in-command Melon. Amazing. He stood before his father, confidently stating, the foundation of our current warriors is shaky, they need to focus more on training. His father thought about Melon's words, the young master is a genius, even with a low star level, he defeated someone with a solid foundation like me, even I have to acknowledge him. His father crossed his arms, even her. Yes, it's a rare battle that I can enjoy. His father held the paper and thought about Melon's words. His father looked up at his son. This time, it seemed like he had shown a lot. He saw his father staring at him and asked, is there something on my face? His father stammered, nothing. As promised, his father handed him the library key. He held the library key in his hand. He walked out the door. He held the key, overjoyed. He had obtained the library key and even changed Melon's mind. He pictured Melon wielding her sword, and thought he could subdue her. Melon was a sword-wielding demon of the Black Magic clan, a high-ranking 6-star demon from the era of destruction. If he wanted to control the entire Black Magic clan, he needed to bring her under his command. He put his hand on his head, proud. Of course, he hadn't completely won, she was overwhelming, but a sure victory was enough. Mentioning the clan head, his feet moved. He thought of his father's sad expression, the feeling he had before. He guessed his father was very proud of Christian before he did anything shameful. A man's shadow appeared. He guessed that was the family bond of the clan members. Perhaps he would become a better person than in his past life. He opened the front door. I won't disappoint you, Count Khazar. No, father, I will succeed. Inside, the library was very clean. He looked to the side. Blood magic, summoning research, curse research, all forbidden in the luminous realm. He reached for a book on the shelf. Marie's face appeared behind the book. He jumped, asking, why are you here? Marie approached, replying, what other reason could there be? Marie's hand gestured towards the books. I am the librarian here. He looked at Marie, surprised. She hugged herself and looked at him. You want me to become your personal maid? He shuddered and told her to shut up. He was furious at Marie's words. Oh, you foul-mouthed woman, my heart is pounding. His voice echoed through the room. Shut up, I'm scared of you. Marie reminded him, young master, the grimoire you chose contains a 4-star black magic spell called Binding Seal. With your current level, I'm afraid you can't comprehend it. Christian closed the book. Then, puffing out his chest, he said, it's fine, I'm a genius. Marie didn't say anything more. She began to praise him perfunctorily. Our young master is not only handsome but also a genius, extraordinary. The forced praise made him uncomfortable. Don't force yourself, he thought. Then Marie asked, is there a reason you specifically chose that book? Christian smiled and affirmed, yes, I need to catch a rat. In the afternoon, Christian trained with others. His body and mind worked in sync. He thought, the first suspect is Thurn. No one in this house despises me more for being useless. The second suspect is Cox. Though not a descendant of the clan, he has free access to the punishment cave. The pressure demon values strength over status, yet he constantly fawns over me. Christian had another theory. There might be a third force he hasn't identified. Whatever it is, they want to see him fall, evidence being the dream stone placed in the punishment cave. While running, Christian suddenly stopped. He thought, maybe I should play the role of the villain they expect. Whoever is happy when I cause chaos is the culprit. Standing in the crowd, he suddenly erupted, "Damn it, this is too difficult." His erratic behavior drew the attention of others. Christian didn't want to run anymore and quickly left. "Have fun, everyone, I'm leaving." The others watched him go, bewildered. What's wrong with him? Cut to dinner. Suddenly, food was scattered across the floor. Christian's father stood up to scold him, but before he could speak, Christian quickly shifted the blame to the servant. "The servant should have served me a decent meal in the first place." He waved his hand, ordering, "Don't just stand there, remake the food." Christian's father was so angry he couldn't stand it anymore. He solemnly said, "I'm a fool to think you finally grew up." Having said that, he left, leaving Christian alone. After his father left, he felt guilty, he felt a little remorse, but it was all for the clan's benefit. "I hope father understands. Call me a devil, if you will. I've spread rumors that I've become a villain. I bullied the maids while they were cleaning. I've been spending money like water." Now, wine was poured into his glass. Christian angrily questioned, "Why aren't you letting me drink?" Marie cheerfully replied, "But you're drinking wine right now." He didn't accept this. "Wine, my ass, you've made it disappear." Earlier, Marie made the alcohol evaporate, claiming, "I'm too young, young master, to drink." Christian helplessly said, "What does it matter? I'm a useless person." Marie wondered, "You've decided to become a villain again. It's all right, this lady will always be by your side." Marie's compassion made Christian visibly disgusted. Suddenly, he summoned a magic circle and said, "As I said, I'm catching a rat." Seeing Christian proficiently using the seal surprised Marie. She exclaimed, "No way, you've mastered the binding seal." He proudly said, "I told you, I'm a genius. I modified it to use it even at a lower star level." Christian talked about his recent efforts. Not only was he a waste of time, but he also diligently practiced and mastered countless spells. When Marie heard this, she couldn't help but be surprised and asked if he was really a genius. Why were they talking when they opened the door and walked in? Thurn suddenly appeared. He quickly adopted a persona. Quickly, "I must pretend to be drunk." He curiously asked, "What's going on? What are you doing here?" Seeing him still acting like a playboy, Thurn angrily questioned, "Is this all you can do? I thought you had changed, become better." Seeing Thurn's expression made him smile in satisfaction. He was really angry, so we could eliminate him from the list of suspects. Suddenly, Christian said something cryptic to Thurn. "Thurn, I think there's a rat in the house." Thurn was a little confused, asking, "What are you talking about?" Christian held up his glass, stood up, and revealed his true intentions. "Someone wants to see me fall. I plan to play along with them for a while." Thurn quickly understood, "You're saying it's all an act." Christian held the wine towards Thurn's nose and affirmed, "Yes, even this wine is fake." After smelling the alcohol, Thurn quickly confirmed that he was telling the truth. So his face became serious and he asked, "Who is that mouse?" Christian shakes the glass of wine in his hand uncertainly. "It's hard to say now. But they will soon be hooked." As he said that, he threw the glass of wine in his hand to the ground as Thurn watched. Hearing the noise, the butler quickly ran in to ask if something was wrong. "Why is the young master making things difficult for the butler? This is not the wine I requested. Order the butler to bring me another bottle quickly." The butler, sweating profusely, replied, "Mr. Ox is currently busy." Hearing this, Christian, licking the wine from his hand and pretending to be drunk, said, "He's busy, then I'll pay him a visit." Thurn, witnessing his performance, was amazed. "His acting is incredible." After a while, Christian brought a bottle of wine and slammed it down in front of Cox. Cox, seeing him like this, asked in confusion, "Why are you here, young master?" Suddenly Christian poured wine down on Cox's head. He pretended to be drunk and made an extravagant joke, "Isn't this the wine I asked for? Are you looking down on me?" Cox quickly stood up and denied, "Of course not. I will immediately order them to bring you the correct wine." Christian refuses. He pointed at Cox, demanding, "Get it yourself." Cox clenched his fists, accepting with resignation, "But I'm busy." Christian wiped the wine off Cox's face, saying, "Are you going to work like this? You need to change your clothes, go." Cox was furious but still accepted his request. I'll be right back, young master. Immediately afterward, Cox quickly left, watched by Christian. Seeing Cox's face, he couldn't help but praise himself. I have to praise his patience in enduring such humiliation, but that hostility. After thinking about it, he turned to look at the pile of papers on Cox's desk. Pick it up and flip it for a while. Then he got what he wanted with that innocent smile. I figured if the butler was the rat, he'd surely have some financial trickery, but that's not enough, I need clearer evidence. After obtaining the evidence, Christian put the remaining papers back on the desk. At that moment, Cox returned with the wine. This is the wine you requested. He turned to thank him. Thank you, you're not angry, are you? Cox, flustered, said, of course not, how could I be angry with you? Hearing this, he praised Cox. Excellent, I don't know if you realize it, but you're my favorite. Cox bowed deeply, expressing his gratitude. I'm very grateful. Suddenly, Cox spoke up. By the way, young master, I have a message for you. He curiously asked, what is it? Cox relayed the message. Your friends, they want to meet you secretly at the old place. He was confused. Friends. Cox became hesitant, explaining, although I don't want you associating with them, we don't have the right to judge your friends. Hearing this, Christian decided to meet his friends. Perhaps I will see them. Cox felt relieved. Yes, as you wish. Seeing how smoothly things were going, he was very satisfied. Everything is going better than I expected. The next day, at a tavern, Christian met his old, wicked friends. As they drank, they said, Christian, I heard you've changed your personality lately, but I don't believe it, we know you too well. He suddenly turned his attention to serving. In my heart, I couldn't help but feel disgusted that forcing a girl this young to serve me wine was truly scum. Those two raised their glasses and urged them to drink. Christian didn't clink glasses but just sipped from his drink, making them irritated. What are you hesitating for? Bottoms up. Unable to bear their disgusting behavior any longer, Christian threw his glass at the fat man's face, causing him to cough, scolding. What do you think you're doing? Christian calmly replied, testing the wine. From your reaction, I know this wine is definitely undrinkable. The fat man, realizing he'd been discovered, became flustered. Suddenly, he raised his hand and used magic, striking the waitress's forehead. After a while, Christian immediately made the waiter faint. Seeing that he could use magic, he was extremely surprised that he knew how to use dark magic too. Christian, seeing no one could stop him, stomped on the table, shouting, I don't think you should be surprised by this. The other two were terrified by his sudden outburst. Christian grabbed the fat man's head and then slammed both their heads onto the table. Fresh blood kept pouring out, making them scared and begged stop. The fat man trembled and wondered, why are you hitting me? Let's calm down. Hearing that, Christian immediately withdrew his hand. It seems like you still haven't realized your mistake. Then die, he said, pulling out a dagger with a murderous gaze. After a while, both were brutally beaten. They fearfully begged, spare us, young master. They honestly revealed their purpose. We were forced to drug you and fabricate evidence to frame you. He threatened to expose our drug trafficking, so we had no choice. Christian approached and asked, who ordered you? The skinny one fearfully stammered, it was. Seeing his reluctance, he forcefully stomped the dagger in front of him, threatening, speak quickly, or I'll cut it off. Terrified, the skinny one urinated and confessed everything. It was Cox. Please spare my life, I'll do anything you say. Christian was skeptical. Really, you'll do anything? Try it. Both quickly agreed, yes, we swear. He wasn't easily appeased and pressed them further. He didn't hear them crying but screaming, we swear. After hearing it from their own mouths, he was satisfied. Fine, I'll remember these words. You will be loyal to me until death. With those words, his magic surged, binding them to a slave contract. After signing the contract, they foamed at the mouth and fainted. Meanwhile, Cox rushed in to inform his father. Sir, there's been an incident. What is it? Cox quickly explained the situation. Young master has committed murder, sir. Upon hearing this, Christian's father lost his composure and stood up abruptly. Cox quickly relayed the information. According to reports, the young master got drunk and killed his drinking buddy, throwing him into the river. This isn't easy to resolve. What should we do, sir? Hearing that his son had committed murder and hidden the body horrified him. Then, he quickly left, ordering Cox to take Christian to the demon court. I will request direct jurisdiction, he said, his eyes darkening ominously. Cox, seeing his plan nearing success, couldn't help but smile with satisfaction. At the demon court, Christian was presented as the culprit, but he vehemently denied it. I'm innocent. The judge didn't believe him. You think you're fooling a child, the witness is standing right there. Christian denied everything. This is simply impossible. He then looked up at the two individuals above. I think there's been a misunderstanding. At that moment, the servant girl from yesterday quickly entered the courtroom. Christian smiled, turning the tables. The servant girl is alive and well. The two men were shocked and disbelieving upon seeing the servant girl alive. The servant removed her cloak and testified that the young master had brought her home after she collapsed and even gave her money for rent. She pointed at the two men. They are the culprits. They put poison in the young master's drink. The courtroom was in an uproar. What's happening? Christian didn't waste words and started acting. It's time for the climax. The two men were initially normal, but suddenly became disoriented. And then confessed everything. Yes, we filed a false report. We were ordered by Butler Cox to frame the young master. Cox denied it immediately. What in the hell are you talking about? They're slandering me. The young master and his friend are blaming me. Young master, isn't this a bit much? This isn't fun. Seeing Cox react as expected, he sighed wearily. I knew you'd react this way. Christian requested of the judge, Father, I am also a victim in this. May I make a request? What is it? He smiled faintly. Allow me to question Butler Cox as your representative. The judge was stunned. Then he accepted Christian's request. Very well, Cox, step up to the defendant's stand. Cox tried to speak, Sir, but the judge quickly interrupted. However, if you take any inappropriate action, I will revoke your authority immediately. Christian stepped down. I'll finish quickly. Christian now stood on the judge's bench as a representative, as the representative of the great leader of the Magic Empire, the Magic Emperor, a member of the Dark Elf race ruling the Southern Magic Kingdom and representative of Count Khazar. I will now question the defendant. Defendant Cox, are you certain you will answer truthfully? Cox affirmed, I swear. Christian asked again, as a representative of the Magic Emperor, I ask again, Defendant Cox, are you certain you will only answer truthfully? Cox raised his hand, I swear. Immediately, a slave contract was swiftly enacted with Cox. He cried out in pain. Then he became bewildered. Everyone in the courtroom was astonished. A binding seal, how could someone like him use 4-star dark magic? It's a modified magic allowing lower-level users, but the target must swear twice. Christian gloated, you've fallen into my trap. Cox under the podium was angry but couldn't say anything. So did you just? Christian boldly spoke up and asked, didn't you just swear that you would only tell the truth, and now why did you order those two guys to harm me? The mark quickly caused Cox's head to ache like a hammer blow. Then, as if his soul had been drained, he confessed, I received orders from someone else. He knew about my corruption and threatened me. He forced me to harm the young master. That's why, ever since you were young, sir, when I heard these things, I couldn't believe my ears. Christian smiled, so it seems you've embezzled quite a bit yourself, but I've known about that for a long time. He quickly stepped down from the platform and asked Cox, tell me, who ordered you? Cox stammered, please, sir, if I tell you. Christian didn't care and increased the magical intensity, speak quickly, Cox. He was in so much pain that he quickly confessed, Lord Eskid ordered me. Father Christian, who was standing nearby, was incredibly surprised and exclaimed, what? A murmur rippled through the courtroom. Lord Eskid de Baron, the second young master of the dark magic clan. After Cox told me everything, if he wanted to run away, he would kill me, so I had to run away. But before he could, Christian instantly drew his sword from his guard's side. He swiftly killed Cox. Father Christian was stunned. Cox's head fell before the eyes of everyone present. Christian coldly announced, having received authority from the Count, "I have executed the punishment upon the criminal."